So I have put Erin to bed today, so I think she's asleep, she's gone quiet. So there shouldn't be any distractions apart from the ones that I naturally have myself. I've made more vague notes this time because I found them actually a bit distracting before because I was trying to follow them too exactly, which didn't let me have my little tangents, which possibly actually provide extra value. So I'm going to be talking about overcoming emotional eating today. This is a really big topic, so I probably can't cover it all. Excuse my armpits, I'm just trying to find something to put my phone on. There's so much to it, and it varies a bit with every person. I'm just going to add something to my notes, one sec. So emotional eating. Initially, what I'm going to cover is the kind of the biology of it, because I think that a lot of people, the reason they get so caught up in this guilt cycle and sabotage is that they don't understand that actually partly it's out of your control. But I'm going to empower you to kind of take back that control today. So the biology of emotional eating is that, sorry, my confused face then was because it's biology and it's psychology all kind of mashed up into one thing, but there's a biological element and a psychological element, and it's all very complicated. So the biology first, I really want you to understand that there is a physical thing that happens with your brain when you eat foods which are really palatable. So think about your weakness foods. So think biscuits, chocolate, bread, crisps, anything that you find it really easy to overeat. There's a reason for that. So those kind of foods, anything that's high in carbohydrate, sugar, salt and fat, doesn't matter whether it's all of those things or one of those things, those light up the pleasure centers in your brain. So it's the same as if you were to do a drug. It makes your brain produce serotonin, it gives you that feel-good high, and that's why you eat more and more and more. And then the other part of that is that our brains haven't yet caught up to the fact that we live in a world where there is plenty of food. So when we eat those highly palatable, easily digested foods, all of those foods get digested really, really quickly. They hit your blood sugar and they give you that high. But they also, your brain, because it doesn't know we live in this world where we have plenty of food, it really wants you to just eat as much as possible all the time, because there might come a time when there's not enough food. Because again, your primal brain doesn't understand that we just have an abundance of food around us all the time. So it's really coming from this lack place where you've got to eat everything you can right now before there's no food left. And that's why, I don't know if you've ever found this, maybe you eat like half a bar of chocolate, or you buy some treats and you know they're in the cupboard, and logically you know nothing's going to happen to that food. If you don't actually want it right now, let's say you've eaten dinner and you're actually feeling full, you don't need to eat anything else, but you cannot stop thinking about that food in the cupboard or the fridge or whatever, and then you go and eat it, even if it makes you feel sick. It's that lack place, that place of, oh my God, if I don't eat it right now, it's going to be gone, and then there's not going to be anything else. And it's that kind of fear. Sorry if you can hear that, my phone's just buzzed. So biologically speaking, there's a part of your brain that is just not caught up to the world we live in today. It wants you to eat as much as possible for survival because it doesn't know that there's plenty of food. So coming at it from that point of view, once you start eating like the biscuits, the chocolate, the crisps or whatever, this is why you kind of go on this like rampage and you can't stop eating. And again, because it hits the pleasure centers in your brain, it's like taking a drug. So the psychology of it then is that, and it kind of ties back in with the biology again, is that back in our hunter-gatherer days, the main stresses that we faced were lack of food, lack of water, or physical danger, say like wolves, saber-toothed tigers, whatever, cold, anything that risked our lives. That was the only stress we really faced. And quite often that stress would have been about a lack of food. Because if you think about, let's say, through the winter months, a lot of the animals are hibernating, a lot of the plants aren't really growing, food was going to be quite limited. So during the summer months and the autumn months, when there was lots of animals around, lots of food around, we would have been hunting a lot, eating a lot, getting a lot of food in. So then that stress we faced through the winter months would have been a lack of food. So again, your primal brain is relating that stress to a lack of food. So again, in our modern days, we don't face those same kind of stresses, but we are facing stress all the time. Work, kids, study, whatever it is, we've always got so much on and we're always feeling stressed. And our brains, I think our subconscious brains, our primal brains, can't really tell the difference between whether you're stressed because you've got a lot going on or whether you're stressed because there's a lack of food. And our stress back in our hunter-gatherer times, if you think about it, let's say you're getting chased by a wolf, for example, or a bear. You either fight it or you run from it. And once that stress is over, you return back to baseline of not being stressed. You've dealt with that, that's done, it's fine, everything's safe now, we're all good. So then you return to not being stressed. Whereas we don't necessarily always face massive stressful events like that. We do just kind of have this constant low-level stress, and eating satiates that because we quite often associate, without being conscious of it, we potentially are associating that stress with the lack of food, because that would have been our kind of longer-term stress in, say, for example, the winter months when there isn't so much food. So it's kind of this, if you kind of really get into the biology and the psychology of it, it's not completely out of your control. It is in your control, and I'm going to get to that. But there is a biological element to it, which is, I kind of want you to understand the logic of why it happens so that you can stop placing blame on yourself and you can stop beating yourself up. Then you know that if you've bought a packet of biscuits and you're going to eat it all, I'm not saying you had no choice, because you do. There's always a choice. But the reason you find it so difficult to stop is because there's a biological element at play and you're basically trying to fight your natural urge. So I'm not saying this because I want you to then go, oh, well, it's biology, I have to eat this whole packet of biscuits, because that's not what this is about. It's just about understanding the reasons why it's so hard to stop. So keep that in mind the next time there is a really highly palatable food available and you're struggling to put it down. That's why. One sec. So there are things that we can do to really limit how often this happens. So firstly, I'm going to talk about making better food choices. Another biological element of like craving unhealthy food is not getting enough nutrients in. One sec, Sophie just wants to ask me something or tell me something.
Is my canine supposed to be flat?
I'd be really glad to interrupt my life to ask me that question. That's not your canine.
Yes, it is.
Oh, yes, it is. I guess because it's a baby one, maybe. I assume it's a baby one because it's wobbly. I hope you haven't got a wobbly growing up to you. Mine are pointy.
Because Kyla's got a baby one and it's pointy.
Oh, well, everybody's different. I don't really know what to say. Could you let me get on with my life, please? I can't believe you came out here to ask me that. No, seriously, go. Come on, I asked you this before I started. So yeah, so part of, you have this nerve called the vagus nerve, which runs along your digestive system, and it actually can detect what nutrients you've eaten. So if you are not eating a healthy diet, if you're not getting enough nutrients in, and you haven't got enough energy, you're again going to start craving those high sugar, high carb, high fat foods because they're so energy dense, quick to absorb. It's going to give you that hit of energy, even though they're generally quite nutrient poor. So following like a paleo diet, for example, where you're eating nutrient dense foods, lots of vegetables, unprocessed meats, eggs, high quality fats, all of that is going to make sure that you're getting enough nutrients in your body, and that will naturally just lower your cravings for crap. I've been actually really struggling with cravings for chocolate recently, which can be linked to low magnesium, so that's something I need to focus on. I'm getting a lot more leafy greens in my diet to try and boost my magnesium intake. So just be wary if you're really struggling with carb cravings or sugar cravings, that you may not actually be eating the right foods or enough food. So making better choices is going to help reduce... Sorry, another buzz. I don't know why it keeps buzzing lately. I thought I turned off all those notifications. Sorry, just looking at what it was. So yeah, making better choices. So then I mentioned a minute ago palatability, which is the taste that makes you want to eat more, like chocolate, crisp, biscuits, all of that kind of thing. So what you want to focus on is high satiety foods rather than high palatability foods. So again, that would be the kind of foods that I'm talking about with paleo, where they're nutrient dense, they're high protein, high good fats. Those all help you stay full for longer. They also provide your body with the nutrients you need, so that's going to reduce your cravings. It's also going to mean that once you've eaten a meal, because you're feeling satisfied, not over full, but satisfied, you're not going to be then hunting for more food. You know, sometimes you finish a meal, and especially if it's kind of a stodgy meal, even though you're probably full or over full, you're still thinking, oh, I really want some pudding, I really want some kind of dessert, I want something sweet. It's because you haven't eaten a high satiety meal, and you're still searching for more palatability because it's quick to absorb, quick to digest, going to give you that hit of energy, but you're also going to crash from it later. So focusing on really energy, nutrient dense foods and high satiety foods is going to really help eliminate those cravings. Also, when you choose treat foods, I'm not from this saying to you that you should never eat sweet foods, but when you do choose them, try to focus on getting them from healthier sources. So recently I've been turning to raw chocolate, which is made from cacao, which is unroasted cocoa. It's really nutrient dense, really good for you. A lot of the raw chocolate bars are also sweetened with coconut sugar instead of refined sugar. One brand I found, On Bar, which I've shared in here before, actually has probiotics in it. And by benefiting your gut bacteria, you can also reduce your cravings because you'll be eliminating like candida and if you have a gut imbalance, you can crave more sugar. So focusing on high quality treat foods. I don't know if you saw my post the other day. I've ordered myself an Easter egg from Hotel Chocolat, and I just adore that chocolate. It's high quality, it's really expensive, so it's not something I'm going to buy all the time, but it's because it's high quality and I know it's a real treat. I really love it. I've spent a lot of money on it. I'm going to really, really enjoy that. And then I think I'm probably going to be done, and I'm just going to get back to eating I'm going to eat paleo anyway. I'm not going to give up paleo just because I've eaten that one thing, which is another thing I'm going to get onto. I'm going to really enjoy it because it's quality and it's expensive. So when you're thinking about putting treats into your diet, make sure they're high quality. You know, those On Bar chocolate bars that I just told you about, they're like 70 grams, so they're fairly small, but they're $2.99. So if you think about the fact that you can buy like a 200 gram bar of Cadbury's for £2, or you can buy a 70 gram On Bar for $2.99, you're not going to treat yourself to On Bar all the time because it's more expensive for less. But I also find that because it's cacao rather than cocoa, and it's coconut sugar rather than refined sugar, it's richer in flavour. It slows you down. You don't like just stuff it in your face like you would with like Cadbury's, for example. It's really, really nice, but the palatability isn't as high as your standard milk chocolate. So making those smarter choices mean you still get to not feed your cravings, but you still get to like really enjoy some foods that you love without going overboard. Like I know, and I'm going to get onto this again in a minute, that if I buy myself a big bar of Cadbury's chocolate, I will demolish that in about 2 minutes. It's really highly palatable, it's sweet, it's creamy, it's high fat, it's high sugar. I'm just going to demolish it. And then I'm still going to feel like I want more, because that's what it does to the brain. The same as when people are addicted to drugs. One sec. But when I buy an On Bar, I eat a 70 gram bar, half the calories of the huge Cadbury's bar, but it's more satisfying. It tastes richer. Like I said, you don't wolf it down, you eat it slowly because you really want to kind of savour that flavour. So I can eat 70 grams instead of 200 grams. And of course it is still kind of high calorie, but it's quality and I haven't gone and overdone it. The same you could make if you search for like paleo cake recipes or paleo, you can pretty much research paleo anything recipes. They're all going to be higher satiety and slightly lower palatability. So they'll still hit the spot and they'll still taste really good. But because they're not overly sweet, because you've used natural sweeteners like coconut sugar or erythritol or stevia, they're just not that highly sweet. And because they don't actually raise your blood sugar, you don't get that crash again. And so it kind of leaves you more stable. So just focus on being more mindful around your treat foods. And I'm going to get on to, I'm going to skip, it doesn't really matter, you can't see my notes. I'm going to skip to knowing yourself next. Let me just read this comment. Yes, exactly. So Fiona says, demolish it, the chocolate. Feel like crap from the sugar low afterwards with 200 grams of Cadbury's. Yeah, exactly. Oh God, you get such a massive sugar hit from that. I don't even want to think about how many grams of sugar are in there. So your insulin kicks in, you crash, you feel like crap. You probably got a tummy ache because the dairy and the sugar all mixing together are fermenting away and making you bloated and feel sick. And it's a mess for your body and your brain. So focusing on those quality foods is going to make such a difference. So then that kind of comes on to knowing yourself. I know, for example, as we're talking about Cadbury's now, that I will sit and demolish a 200-gram bar of Cadbury's chocolate. Because again, the biology, the psychology, it's high palatability, it hits the pleasure centres of your brain. Maybe I'm feeling stressed, I've had a hard day with the kids and I want to sit down at 8 o'clock in the evening and my brain goes to, let's sit and eat a massive bar of chocolate. I'm kind of instead of taking that self-care, maybe I go and have a bath or do some yoga or do some journaling or really just do something that I can enjoy. I'm forgetting all that and I'm filling that void with sugar and dairy and chocolate and all the stuff that's bad for me. And I'm not really facing what I'm actually missing. So again, if you know yourself and you know that if you keep sweets in the house, you're going to eat them, don't have them in the house. Like, I don't buy chocolate bars for the kids. I don't buy crisps. I don't buy anything like that because I know myself and I know all of us, if they're in the house, we're going to eat them. Some people are really great at having it in the house and not doing that, and that's awesome. And if you know you're one of those people, then that's cool. You can carry on. But if you are somebody, if you know that you can't have it in the house because you'll demolish it, then just don't have it. If we have treats now, we go out and buy it specifically. So we have movie night on a Saturday and the kids get sweets. And sometimes I'll treat myself again to like the raw chocolate, or I'll make something. It's a treat and it happens and it's planned and we know it's going to happen, so then you don't go overboard. So really getting to know yourself and your habits is important. When I talked about this the other day, somebody commented, I don't know if she's in here actually, and said that she can't have any sugar at all because it leads to a binge. And I was like, that's cool, you know yourself. I think she felt like I was saying, like, you have to have some. You don't. If it doesn't work for you, if you know that you actually just can't have any sugar at all, you have to give it up completely, never eat it again, and you're okay with that and it doesn't mess with your head, then that's cool, don't do it. You know yourself. So just become aware of your patterns. This is all kind of a process I went through over a matter of years. When I switched over to paleo, obviously sugar is not involved in paleo. Nothing processed is. It really kind of makes you quite aware of your patterns and your habits. And I know if I'm at work and I haven't brought lunch in, if I go to Reeves, for example, I will buy like one of their big focaccia rolls. I'll buy a Millionaire shortbread. And just that on its own is probably like almost my full day of calories just on lunch. Whereas if I go to Pret, I know I can get myself a nice salad and maybe treat myself to one of they do like a dark chocolate and almond butter cookie, which is amazing. And I'm not going to put away half as many calories. Maybe it'll be half as many. It will still be quite a lot, but at least it will be more nutrient dense choices. So know yourself. And that's just a mindfulness thing that you can practice. And over time, you'll get to know yourself better and you'll be able to know what you can allow and what you can't allow. So what I forgot to mention back with psychology was self-care. Really, we're quite bad, I think, in the Western world at taking care of ourselves. We're so busy. And I talked about this in here the other day. when you've got so much going on and you're always on the go, you don't really actually sit and take the time to face anything that you might need to face, like mentally or emotionally. So I've been signed off sick these past couple of weeks to help my leg heal. And on, what was it? Like, I think it was Thursday last week, yeah, because Noah and Erin were both at nursery, and I posted about that in here as well. I was sort of just pottering around doing some cleaning, and a song came on that my granddad used to love, and he died when I was 11. And as a general rule, I can talk about him and think about him without getting upset. This was like 18 years ago, which is crazy. So he was actually in my life for less time than he's been out of it. But this song came on that he used to love, and I just like couldn't stop crying. I cried and cried and cried and cried. And it made me realise that maybe we're just so busy with our lives that we actually don't stop to face anything going on emotionally. And I felt great after that. I had a couple of big crying sessions, and I just felt this like lightness. So really just take the time. I know it's difficult to face emotions. We are quite, I think, especially in the UK, we're very stiff upper lip, aren't we? We don't like to talk about things. We don't like to feel things. We like to bury it down. But that really is not going to help you, especially when it comes to emotional eating. If you are trying, to bury emotions, you're going to eat those emotions. So just try and take some time out just to wind down, to stop being busy. I know that, like, if I go and have a bath, I will take my phone with me and I'll be scrolling Facebook. Sorry, my phone's ringing. Just 1 second. I'm so sorry, it was my sister. I forgot she was coming around today. If you're catching the replay, hopefully that will be fairly seamless. I just answered the phone. So yeah, if you're going to go and have a bath, for example, don't take your phone, because if you're scrolling through your phone, you're still keeping your brain really busy and you're not giving it a chance just to stop and work through anything. And then there are things like having boundaries, saying no to people. It's okay to say no to people. Understand that you're not a bad person if you can't help somebody with something, or you don't want to help somebody with something. Maybe you're just not in the place to right now. Like, really just taking care of your own emotional well-being is really important. This is really, like, overcoming emotional eating is a really holistic thing. Like, it's not just about having immense willpower to be able to say no. It's really about taking care of the whole person. So taking time for self-care is really important, and that doesn't have to just be going for a bath if that's not your thing. It could be actually making sure you have a workout. Self-care doesn't always have to be like this blissful thing where you're like being pampered. It can be things like making sure you work out every day because that helps you manage stress. Doing some yoga before bed to help you wind down so you sleep better. Having a difficult conversation with your partner or husband or wife or whatever, that maybe something they're doing is bothering you, or maybe you're unhappy about something in the relationship you need to have a discussion about. It's really just paying attention to every aspect of your life. Where am I not happy? Where is something not right? And then facing that and dealing with it. And that's going to increase your self-esteem, which is again going to help you feel more in control, so you're not going to turn to emotional eating. So the final thing I want to talk about really is self-forgiveness if you do dive into the biscuits or the crisps or whatever it is. Like, it's probably going to happen every now and again. And that's okay. The mistake that people quite often make is that if they do then dive into whatever your weakness food is, you're like, I've ruined it all now, whatever, and then you just go into total sabotage. And that's what ruins it. Like, the one thing you had, big packet of crisps or the cake or the chocolate or the ice cream, whatever, that didn't ruin it. What will ruin it is if you think that's ruined it and then you sabotage. So really pay attention to your thought process and where you're going with your mindset when it comes to food. Like, so yesterday, for example, we went to Waitrose. I took the kids to Waitrose and they had cake, and I had Waitrose Cafe do this thing called a squillionaire shortbread. I love my millionaire shortbread. But I'm obviously, at the moment, I'm grain-free, dairy-free, all of this, I'm paleo, basically. So this squillionaire shortbread is actually not grain-free. It uses polenta for the base. But I made that decision there and then to think, actually, I would really like to sit and eat a cake with my kids. I don't want to just drink my coffee and be watching them. I want to join in with this. So I got the squillionaire shortbread, and the caramel is made of like date syrup, and I think the chocolate is carob, or it might just be dark chocolate, dairy-free chocolate, I'm not sure. I did scan over the ingredients. And it was really nice. But then we sort of looked around the shop and the kids bought some chocolate, and then I was like, oh, I'll just buy myself some raw chocolate too. Which wasn't necessary, because actually after my coffee and the Squillionaire shortbread I was quite full. So do you see what kind of happened here? Is then I was like, oh, I'll just buy some chocolate too. And that sugar high, even though it was a better choice than an actual Millionaire shortbread, it still kind of sent me on that roller coaster a little bit. So I bought this raw chocolate and I ate half of it like when we bought it, and then I ate the other half of it in the evening. So yesterday I went over my calories by like 150. So actually it wasn't anything major. It wouldn't have ruined my results. I do count calories at the moment because I've got some very specific goals that I want to achieve. I'll talk about when calorie counting is either necessary or not acceptable, that's not the right word, but a good idea on another training. I might add that to the list actually. So it wouldn't have ruined anything, because on the whole I've stuck within my calories this week. But it did certainly make me feel a bit like, oh god, that wasn't really the right choice to make. I probably shouldn't have had that extra chocolate. I didn't need it. Actually, it made me feel a bit sick. That wasn't the right thing to do. So I could have, I could have been like, oh fuck it, I've ruined it now. I'm just going to go back to eating how I used to eat before. I've had grains anyway because the Squillionaire shortbread was made with polenta. But no, because I am focused on my goals, I'm focused on my health. Sorry, buzz. I've reached this level of awareness where I can go a little bit off track like that, and it actually just made me mindful of the fact that I definitely don't want to be doing that every day, because while one day is fine, every day is going to set me back. So it's kind of about slowing down. It's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to go a bit off track. Even though those two choices kind of took me over my calories a bit, they were still mostly whole food. They weren't exactly on track with what I want to be eating, but, you know, it was better than an actual Millionaire shortbread and the Cadbury's chocolate, which would have been taken me way, way over and made me feel really sick and awful. It's really just about slowing down and being mindful and thinking, okay, I had whatever it was. That's okay. It happens. We're just going to carry on now. And that's a practice. It's just being really mindful of your choices and understanding that sometimes things are going to go a bit wrong, and then you're just going to bring yourself back. And it's a bit like meditation. If you've ever meditated, meditating isn't about emptying your mind. It's not about achieving this perfect state. Oh my god, my phone, I'm so sorry. It's not about creating this perfect state of being. It's about awareness. So when you meditate, if you've ever tried it, your mind's going to wander. It's going to go. And you're going to have all these thoughts just rolling through your mind. And then you're going to be aware of it and you go, oh, back to centre, back to focusing on my breathing or my mantra or whatever it is. And the more you do it, the better you get at coming back. And it's the same with your eating. You'll follow paleo or whatever it is, and then you'll go a bit off track, and then you'll become aware of it, and you'll kind of be ready to move back into it, and you'll bring it back. And the more you practice that, the less often it'll happen, and the quicker you'll get back to it. I've been through phases where I've gone off track, and I've stayed off track for like 6 months. And I've been like, oh, I need to get back on track, but I haven't been able to get my brain back to it, and then something clicks, and back I come. And it's a practice. So yesterday was not exactly on track. There were still better choices, but I'm back on it today. And that's, it was that quick. So keep practicing. So I think that's everything that I can cover today. Like I said, this is a huge topic. My sister's coming round as well, so I need to jump off. But I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments here and I will come back and answer them. Thank you everybody who's come and watched. If you watch the replay, just tell me if it's the replay, post your questions, and we're doing another one next week, and I don't remember what the topic is, but it's in the announcements at the top of this group. Each time I come up with a new topic, I'm going to list it there. And if you have any suggestions for topics you'd like me to cover, anything you're specifically struggling with, then put it in the comments on the announcement, and I'll add it and we'll cover it each week. So thank you for watching, and I will catch you soon. Bye!